Hey, what's up, everybody? This is my good friend Diego.
Hi, and this is Seth from SethPerler.com.
Diego's one of my students this year, and he's a seventh grader at a middle school here in Boulder. And I wanted to ask him for today's blog post, I wanted to ask him about what advice he would give to himself a year ago. So before we dive into that, I want to find out a little bit about Diego. As we know, you are a seventh grader. What have been some of your favorite subjects over the years?
I don't know, probably art, definitely, because I don't want to brag, but I think I'm pretty creative. Let's see. Okay. I'm not really sure what else.
Do you feel like math is a strength?
No.
Science?
Actually, yeah, probably science more than anything else. Not really good with history and that stuff.
Writing?
Sort of.
And reading?
Yeah.
All right. And what have been some of your biggest struggles throughout school?
Probably one of them probably has to be study habits. So last year I would either like scare myself into a scenario of what would happen if I failed this quiz, which normally didn't end up very well. It just really didn't work out very well.
So how would you scare yourself?
I would pretty much stay up pretty late until I'm on the edge of losing sanity. And I would pretty much think of all possible scenarios for what would happen if I ever if I failed this test and what would happen.
And how did that work for you?
It was very effective in scaring me, but not very good like study-wise, because although I would study and get an okay-ish grade, it still wasn't like really working for me.
So what advice would you give yourself? Like if you could travel back in time to last year, what advice would you give yourself about study habits?
Probably study habits. Probably don't stress too much and don't study on the night that's like right before the test, because that will ruin you. It's not good for you to stress that much for anyone.
And I find it's really hard for me when I'm working with students to get students to want to make the shift to studying before a test. So let's say there's a test on Friday. So getting them in the habit of learning how to start studying on Monday a little bit each day or a little bit every other day rather than the night before or not studying at all. How did you convince yourself to change that habit? Because the habits are hard to change.
I probably eventually got to the point where, let's see, it was like the night of a quiz and I was going to do what I normally do, which was scare myself. And I decided, it wasn't a good idea for me, so I thought of any other ways for me to do it. And so I decided that next quiz that was going to come up, I'd actually study before the night before the quiz, so study more in advance.
And how did that work for you?
It worked a lot better. My grades went up, and yeah.
What happened to your stress level?
It definitely went down. I'm a lot less stressed than I was last year, so that's an improvement.
All right, cool, thank you. And one more, we're gonna do two more pieces of advice you would give yourself last year. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give yourself last year in terms of mindset or attitude about school or teachers or anything?
Well, last year I had kind of a negative mindset towards school, I'm gonna fail, I'm not gonna do very well. And that didn't, for some reason I had the weird feeling that it was gonna work for me, and it did not. So it was really hard to change my mindset to more of a positive level, because mindsets are really hard to change, just like habits.
Definitely. So what advice would you give yourself in terms of what your mindset should be? Or where are you at today?
I'd probably tell myself, think more positively and look for the bright side.
Like what? Like what's more positive about, studying or a class you don't like or homework you don't want to do? What's a more positive mindset?
Well, when I get home, I can take a break, probably. So probably set up maybe like like a reward for me for like thinking positive. I'm not really sure.
I mean, what do you do? What's your attitude now about school?
I think it's pretty good. Probably more positive than last year.
Are you less resistant? Like if you don't want to do homework or studying, are you more able to just be like, all right, Diego, just do it anyway?
I've probably, I've been a little bit less stubborn, I think.
It's hard to change, huh? But
Yeah.
I think it's a tremendous difference, actually. I mean, look at today. You just like started doing what often you start doing what you need to do, and you just start. So that's a change. Do you know how that changed, or was it slow, or
It was
it a decision?
pretty slow because I have this thing coming up where if I don't finish it, then I'll repeat the grade, and I do not want to do that. So I pretty much just decided like I'm tired of like skipping all these assignments and getting these crappy grades that I'm getting. So I decided I think it's time for me to probably start taking charge of the situation.
Cool. That's a great answer. I think there's a lot of different ways people approach this, and this type of way, to me, would be described as like a choice, a maturity choice. It's like, I'm done with this, I'm gonna step it up. And that's really hard to get people to. You sort of have to get there on your own. Like, I can't make you do that. Your parents definitely can't make
Yeah.
you do that. If anything, that can make it worse. But it's really, you kind of have to come to that somehow on your own. All right, let's go with one other piece of advice you would give yourself. In terms of how you communicate with teachers and how you advocate for yourself and communicate to teachers what you need, how have you, what piece of advice would you give yourself last year in terms of advocacy?
Try listening to the teachers, definitely, and if I have like any problems, actually talk to the teachers instead of waiting till like the last second to get a no that I know I'm gonna get.
And what do you find when you talk to teachers and you are proactive and you go say, hey, help me out?
Well, for one thing, they're kind of surprised because I normally don't. I'm not very good at advocating for myself. So, yeah, they're more positive about it and about helping me, which is a good thing, I hope. So.
Do you feel like they even give you tips or ideas in how to succeed in their class that you wouldn't have known about?
Yeah, because when you actually talk to the teacher, they'll give you tips if you ask for it. Like I had a missing assignment or a couple assignments that I was late on, and I needed an extension. So normally, what I would do is like not ask for the extension and end up getting a 0 on the assignment, but instead I actually asked for an extension, and I got them both in on time, and I got full credit, so it's good.
Awesome. And what one other piece of advice would you give to a student who struggles with ADD, who is struggling in school, and let's say that they're in middle school, let's say they're in 6th grade or something.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give to a middle schooler who's struggling with ADD?
Oh, I don't know. Like, it's really just hard for me to like kind of control myself. So, I'm not really sure what advice I'd give. That's kind of like a hard question to really answer. So, yeah, I'd probably have to think about it.
Do you find that getting help from people helps?
Yeah.
So I think that might be something that I see that you've learned to do that people don't want to do. Like, we don't want to ask anyone for help.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling when you're like you don't want anyone to really help you, and then you kind of have to admit the truth is like you actually do need help, and that's kind of hard, but it's it changes.
It's actually not as bad.
Yeah, it's not
as
as
the
bad as you
fear
think.
of like asking for it.
Yeah.
That's what I find too. But All right, everybody. I hope you're having an awesome day, and we will see you soon. Any final words?
No.
Be well.